What's good, Flavor Fest family? We are back with another episode of the Urban Leadership Podcast for Flavor Fest, and it is coming up. The big conference is coming up, not in October this year. Just want to remind you, because it's been in October for like the last 10 plus years. We pushed it back to November to get away from hurricane season, and it's a little cooler in Florida. It's going to be like perfect weather, so you want to pull up November the 2nd through the 4th. On the website, flavorfest.org, we just released the lineup. The official lineup is going to be fire, y'all. Listen, the speaking lineup is on there. And today, speaking of which, we got one of the speakers that's going to be doing a fire workshop about social media and how to leverage social media for your ministry, whether you're a pastor, a church planner, nonprofit leader, an artist. This guy is a guru. He was my social media coach a couple of years ago for our church, and he taught us a lot of secret sauce and just gave us a lot of incredible ideas that we've implemented. And let me tell you something, it has helped our ministry grow. It's helped us reach so many more people online and in person. And so, yeah, you definitely don't want to miss this conversation. Share this with some other people. And listen, if you are not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. Make sure you like it as well. And we're going to jump in. Let's go. Welcome to the Flavor Fest Urban Leadership Podcast, where we talk to innovative artists, creative pastors, church planners, entrepreneurs, and people creating movements. Our goal is to inspire and equip you in ministry, music, and the marketplace. I'm your host, Tommy Urban D. Coloni. So I'm super excited to have a guy on here that's going to bring the secret sauce and bring the energy today. Come on, show some love for my guy, Chris Abbott.
Oh, Tommy, what's up, bro?
AKA Abbo.
Abbo.
That's
Abbo
like
Urban D hanging out, man.
That's like your hip hop name, bro. Abbo. Drop some
I love
bars. It, dude. Yeah, man. So I met Chris, everybody, through like some of the marketing stuff he was doing online for churches. Amazing. And then a couple years ago, I went to this retreat in Montana, and it was like this retreat for ministry leaders. And we went to this like this big house, kind of like a big cabin type of vibe. We went fly fishing and jumping off of cliffs and all this crazy stuff. And when I looked at the list, it's a small group of people going, 15, 20 people. Like Chris was on there. I'm like, yes, I get to hang out with my guy Chris and get to build with him, man. So, bro, did you catch any fish on that trip?
Man, I didn't catch a thing. I know a bunch of dudes did.
I didn't catch nothing, bro. Not one fish. I mean, there was like hardly anybody on my boat. Nobody was catching fish. They were like, there's usually like 50,000 fish per mile. Right now, there's like 2,000. You know, I'm like, this is terrible. There's like a drought. But man, you got me to jump off that cliff, bro.
Dude, that cliff was high too, man.
It was, bro. I was having a conversation in the back of the boat, and those guys are like, nah, I'm not going. You're like, yo, Tommy, come on, man. Come on, don't be a punk. And I was like, oh, yeah, I got this. And so I remember we climbed up that mountain, bro, and normally it was like a 25-foot jump, but because of the drought, the water level was way down. It was like 40 feet. And when we got to the top and we're looking down, it was like, yo, this is like 4 stories. And you guys all jumped first. I was the last one. And you guys were all down like, come on, Tommy. And I'm just like, oh, crap. And I'm like, I don't want to walk back down. That'll be the walk of shame.
100%, bro.
So
way quicker to just jump. You know what I mean?
I just counted. I'm like, all right, just counted 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. But it was fun, man. It was definitely exhilarating. The water was like 55 degrees. It was cold. It was hot outside.
You had to swim back out to the boat.
But that water, man, it just immediately numbed your body. But it was refreshing. That was good times, bro.
That was a fun trip, man.
So, man, let some of the people out here watching know a little bit about how you got into social media, man, or how you became like a guru at that. And really just even your heart, man, and you shared your passion when we were on that trip, is you just want to help people find Jesus. You want to help churches grow. Like, how did you get wired to kind of get into that and then figure out? Because social media is an animal. It's a monster to try to figure out, and most people can't do it well.
Bro, so like I've always been a youth ministry guy, right? So like when I went to college, I went to Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Man, like I majored in theology with a concentration in youth ministry, and that's all I ever wanted to do was just going to youth ministry. And so, man, I was in youth ministry for 15 years. I've been a worship leader for 20, and I know like one of the things that I was on staff at a church here in Oklahoma, and I remember it was like the tail end of 2013. Right. And I had a huge heart for just reaching people, growing the church. Our youth group was just thriving. I mean, it was just exploding. We had kids coming out. Like I had two of the kids from like one of the major wrestling, one of the major high schools there, like from the wrestling team came out. Mm-hmm. They got saved. And then they just started bringing out like the whole wrestling
leaders,
team.
Bro.
That's it, right? Like, man, those bell sheep, right? They just bring everybody with them.
Yeah.
And I ended up becoming like their home announcer. They're like, so like every time we had a wrestling match, like, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, right? So that was.
Do you do voiceovers, bro?
I've done a few, man. I got one of my buddies has a big church in Ohio. I've done some voiceovers for them. That was a lot of fun. A couple of church stuff. So, but yeah, so we did all that. Well, like in the middle of all that, it was how the ministry is, right? It's like, hey, Abbott, wait a second, like you sing? Hey, like man, so next thing you know, like I'm the worship leader, and I was like, wait a second, like you do graphic designs? Now, like I was a graphic designer, and then I was like, hey, our volunteer like left and locked us out of the website, so you got to learn how to go build websites and build us a new site.
Welcome to ministry. You wear a million hats,
bro. That's exactly it, right? Like. And so like in that time, one of the things I was looking at was I've just always like just been obsessed with marketing and just loved it, right? So it's just like, all right. And I started seeing how, right, this is tail end of 2013, I started seeing how like everything is going towards social media. And I remember the time, like I didn't really care that much about like Facebook or anything, it was just like, but I could see that everything was going that way. And I was like, man, the future of marketing is going to be social media, which means the future of how we reach people and invite them to church is going to be social media. And so I just remember like, and I kind of laugh at this now, but at the time I just thought, all right, I'm going to take all of 2014 and I'm just going to study the fire out of social media, and I'm going to become like a social media marketing expert. And then by the end of the year, I'll be able to implement that at my church and then be able to help some of my friends at their churches. Yeah. Now I laugh because like, if you know anything about like social media, like Facebook, like alone has probably changed the algorithm twice since we started talking, right? Like everything changes so fast. Yep. But so I dove in and just started studying things, right? And like I remember I'd been studying for a couple of months, and my pastor ends up coming to me at some point. It might have been like back to school, so it was probably 8 or 9 months in, and he was like, "Dude, we totally forgot. We bought 500 backpacks. We got all these school supplies. Like we always, give them out to all the families in need, like around the city." He's like, "Dude, I totally forgot to advertise. Like we'd put it up, like the elementary school would put it on their marquee. And like, there was like a local paper. They'd give us like a full page ad for free just to like get it out. And we just forgot. I was like, okay. So I remember he came to me on Wednesday. He's like, dude, what are we going to do? Like it's Sunday morning, right before our 11 o'clock service. And I was like, okay, man, give me $150. There are these new things called Facebook ads. Let me just see, like, I'll run $50 a day, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and just see what happens. I was like, it was too late to do anything else. And so I just went on, I'd learned how to build websites at that point. I built our site. So I just built like a quick landing page that just talked about all the things we were giving out, listed out all the school supplies. And hey, we got free Chick-fil-A for everybody that comes out. We got free haircuts for people, and all the different stuff was going on at the outreach. And so I started like 10:30, like Sunday morning, because we were hoping people would come to that, and then they stick around for the 11 o'clock service. Yeah. I remember, so like I ran it, and all the numbers look good. We're getting a lot of clicks. People are checking the page, but I have no idea how many people are going to show up. So I showed up on Sunday morning at like 7:30 in the morning. I pull in, and there's a line wrapped around our gym and like wrapped around like 3 sides of the building, like going through the parking lot. And at first I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, is there something else going on today? Then I was like, oh my gosh, the Facebook ads. I was just like, dude, what? Like, it was $150.
We're
like,
on to something.
Dude, that's exactly it, right? Like 3 hours before the event, they're lined up, right? There's like kids with bedhead, like eating Pop-Tarts, standing in line outside, like what?
So how many people actually came from that specific $150 ad estimate? Like,
so well, I'll say this. So at least more than 500, because we had 500 backpacks. Like with the free Chick-fil-A, we ran out. It was supposed to last all day. We ran out of it in 10 minutes. like the free backpacks took 45 minutes, but then we ran out of those, and then we still had a long line. So we had to start like taking people's like name and numbers and say, hey, we're so sorry, we're gonna go buy more backpacks and school supplies. We'll call you, and you come back to the church this week and pick it up. You know, and then like there was probably like a dozen like barbers there, like and stuff like that, like giving free haircuts.
They were just swamped.
Dude, every single one of them had a line 15 or 20 people deep waiting for haircuts. Wow. And like you could barely, like we have a huge gym at that church, and you could barely like walk. There were so many people in there, right? Yeah. So I mean, there was at least 600, 700, 800 people. I don't know. And like my pastor came in and just looked at me and was like, "Bro, what did you do?" And I was like, "It's the Facebook ads, man." It's like
broke the system.
Dude, like we broke it, right? Like so I was like, okay, I think we might have tapped into something. Wow. You know, so that was kind of the start of things for me, you know, from a social media marketing standpoint. And then, you know, it just kind of snowballed from there, right? Just kept using it for different events and then figuring some stuff out, Plan Your Visit, and diving into the organic side of social media. And, but yeah, like that we kind of broke the church that day. And it was just like, this is nuts, but it was like, okay, we're on to something here. So that was kind of the beginning of everything.
That's an awesome story. And by the way, if you guys are watching, Chris Abbott is going to be doing a workshop at Flavor Fest in Tampa this November. It's his first time to pull up. Super excited to hang out with him in person. But listen, he is going to give you so many amazing ideas on just how to do outreach in today's culture. Not the old school, but how to leverage social media, how to leverage technology. Man, Chris, I think one of the most important things I learned from you, bro, and you told me about this when we were in Montana on that trip.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that was the thing about, for all the first-time guests, to do a custom video text. Bro, I have been doing that. Our team has been doing that ever since, it's been almost 2 years now. Well, yeah, it's been 2 years now. Because I was on sabbatical, and I had a burner phone.
I remember that.
You know, the little mini iPhone, right? And that little iPhone, when I came back, I'm like, let's keep this, and let's just use this as the church phone, because you want it to come from a real number. You know, so it's like real organic interaction. And bro, it has been amazing. I mean, this past Sunday was back to church Sunday. We had 40 families come to church for the first time, and which was actually, I thought there was going to be way more, because we're averaging 30 to 35 every Sunday this whole summer. Bro. It's been crazy. So our growth is just continually going up. Every month we're just kind of inching up a little bit higher, a little bit more, and people are coming back. They're tapping in. They're going to growth track. They're getting assimilated. But one of the biggest things was that video text, man. People love it. So, I mean, it takes a while, especially when you have 40, but that's one of those things that you don't want to delegate. Whoever's preaching that weekend. So if I'm not preaching that weekend, I don't have to do it. The communicator from that Sunday is the one that does it. And sometimes on really big days like Easter, we had 100. I split it up between myself and somebody else that was on the platform that day. So they would at least be like, oh yeah, he's one of the pastors. I saw that guy. You know, he got up and did announcements or prayed for the offering or whatever. But it's been great, man. So we do that, and then we also do the monthly Zoom call for all those people, and we text them and ask them. I learned from you, the other big thing I learned from you is I don't do the blanket text to all those 125 first-time guests from that month. I actually send them a text. I cut and paste it, but I say, hey, it's Pastor T from Crossover. I'm doing a dessert party tomorrow night on Zoom. You have to bring your own dessert, LOL. We're just going to hang out for a few minutes, want to get to know you, hear a little more of your story, you and some other new people. Do you want me to send you the link? Question mark. I learned that from you, bro. That's psychology. So talk about that. Talk about that whole thing, man. I love how you explain that and break that down when you communicate with people on text or on social media, leaving that loop open.
Yeah. So there's something in NLP, in neuro-linguistic programming. So it's called open loops, right? It's this idea of open loops. And, with an open loop, we all experience this a lot of times without even kind of realizing what it is, right? It's kind of like if you're sitting there watching, Netflix at night, right, with your wife or something, and like an actor walks on, you're like, oh, dang, where do we know that dude from? right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, like, man, like he's from like that show, right? And it's like,
And then
next
you're
thing
like
you know, like,
Googling it, like, is it
yep,
this
yep.
guy's
I'm on
name?
IMDb. Like, where is this dude from? Right. Like, and so, right. And it's because like it opens up a loop in your brain, right? And you have to close that loop in order to like kind of, move on. And so there's a lot of stuff, especially just like in culture and like communication, where we have open loops. And so questions are one of the best ways to open a loop in someone's brain. And you can do it through copywriting. You can do it through, social media posts and stuff like that. But, text messages, emails, right? Whenever you're communicating with someone, whenever you end something with a question, like if the last thing you say is a question mark, right? Then you open a loop, and now that other person has to close the loop by responding. Right. So like if you were going to send, we'll talk about this, like with if you're sending like a video invite to somebody, right? We'll do this with like prayer requests and that kind of stuff, like online prayer requests sometimes. Right. So just, if you're inviting people out, just be like, hey, John, what's up, man? Chris Abbott here. Hey, listen, dude, I just want to invite you out to Guts Church, man, this Sunday at 11 o'clock. Can you make it? And that's the last thing you say, right? Like that opens up a loop, and now he has to respond. Right.
Yeah.
So
it's not like, hey, I hope you can come to church this Sunday. Take care. No.
Right.
Like, it's
right.
not
that's not an invite.
Okay, well, if I can come, it's like, it's the question that just like, can you make it? That's
yes.
Chris. That's the pastor. I gotta say something back.
Yeah. You can't not respond to a pastor, right? Like it's totally different. And so what a lot of like the trap that a lot of people fall into is they do exactly what you said. Like, hey, we'd love to have you at the church sometime, right? We'd love to host you or something. But then, some people go, oh, okay, I need to ask a question, but they'll still keep talking afterwards and add softeners. So it's not awkward, right? Because they're still scared of rejection. So it'll be like, hey, like, man, we're having church this Sunday. Like, can you make it? Man, we sure would love to like host you and your family, and
so then the question's lost. It gets lost.
Yep. You close the loop by continuing to talk, right? So you just have to end it with a question, right? Same thing in a text message. It's so like some of my team, like because we teach this kind of stuff, like I'll text them, something like, hey guys, we decided to have like a meeting, blah, 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 we're moving this around or whatever. We're actually going to meet, Friday morning at 10 a.m. Can you make it? Right? And then they respond and they're like, bro, love how you ended it with a question, man. Open loop. Yes, I can be there, right? You start to kind of see that like everywhere. But yeah, I love that you remember that. I love that you're doing that, bro, because it's a game changer, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, man, nobody ever responds. You start ending it with a question, everybody responds.
It has, man. It has. So yeah, when I send that out, at least 60-70% of people respond back with either yes, send me the link, or they would say, oh man, I gotta work, that night, or I got something planned, or I'll see you Sunday. And so it's this great engagement. And, with the video text, I would say 70 to 80% of people respond back to that. And it's funny because I regularly will get somebody that'll respond back with a video text, back to the video text.
Yes.
I had somebody do that this past week, one out of 40. But it was a lady, and she was just sharing how, man, your church was amazing, and this was so great. And so many people are just like, OMG, I can't believe, like, you texted me personally, like, and sent this message. I've never had a church do that. I've been looking for a church, and like this just made us put it over the top. We already loved it. We felt so at home, but now like we'll be there Sunday. There's so many messages that we get that are like that. And so, it takes a little bit of work, but let me tell you, it's so worth it. And then people can regularly text on that phone, and the staff passes it around. There's great engagement. And so we invite people to other things on there, other call to action, CTAs, regularly on there, but it all comes from like a real phone. They know it's not like a text message that's programmed. And it takes a little bit more work, but for your first time guest, like, it's definitely a sticky point.
That's it, man. I think a lot of times, right, it's easy to be like, okay, well, how can I automate this? Right. But we can't automate authenticity, right? We can't automate connection. Good. Right,
and that's tweet right there, bro. do we still call them tweets now that it's called X? Do we say?
Man, I've actually been wondering that. Right, like I have no idea. It seems like you still call it a tweet on X, but I don't know. Maybe there's something else. But that's the thing. Is like, man, like that's the part, right? Like automation and technology should only facilitate the relationship, right? It should accelerate the relationship. It should supplement the relationship, but it shouldn't replace the relationship, right? And I think that's where a lot of times it's easy, and and we're all busy, right? Like we're in ministry, we're doing stuff, so it's hard. That's why most people don't do it, right? And that's why it stands out. Like you just mentioned, right? People are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like you like texted me personally. It's because nobody does that.
Yeah,
right.
And my church also there was 400 people in the room each service, so they're like all those people were there, and and I am always in the lobby after service to greet people and say hello, but obviously not everybody can always come up to me when there's a crowd 100%. That big. There's a line sometimes, and but yeah, it just speaks volumes. But even if you have a smaller church, it still has impact.
Oh, 100%. I have churches of 20 or 30 people that do it. And people they're just overwhelmed. They can't believe the pastor. They know pastors are busy, right? They can't believe the pastor would personally take time to text them and make a personal video for them, right? It changes the game. And I mean, here's the deal. Like 80% of people who meet the pastor on their first visit will come back for a second visit, right? 8 out of 10 people, if they meet you as a senior pastor on the first visit, they'll come back for a second visit. What do you think that number looks like if that pastor is sending them a personal text on Monday, right? The day after, saying, hey, thanks so much for coming out, man. Like had a great time getting to meet you, or, like hope your kids had a great time back in the kids area with Pastor Deborah. I hope that was awesome. Man, I tell you what, we're actually having church again next Sunday, same time, same place, 10 o'clock. Can you make it? Right? Like now, man, it's a game changer, right?
You know what? I don't leave the video text though with a question mark. Maybe I should try that.
Bro,
I do it with the text messages, but I haven't done it with the video text. Maybe I'm gonna experiment.
I love it, man. I'll tell you another, just a little secret sauce thing.
Give me the hacks, bro.
Well, so if they have kids and you can mention something about their kids, right? Like specifically, and drop like a little message for their kids. What's going to happen? Like, so, for example, like, hey, John, what's going on? Like, hey, hey, John and Susie, what's going on? Pastor Chris here. Hey, super excited, man, that you guys came out yesterday. Listen, man, if little Julie is there, man, little Julie, this message is for you, man. This is Pastor Chris. Thank you so much for coming out. Pastor Deborah was bragging about how awesome you were yesterday. Listen, I tell you what, don't tell your parents this. If you come out this Sunday, I'm going to have a massive bag full of candy just for you. If you come back this Sunday, right? Like you just, so if you do like some type of like little message just to them, everybody wants people taking care of their kids. That's good. Right? Like, I don't even care if people take care of me. They take care of my kids. Like, I'm in for life. Right. And so and you do something like bragging them with candy or free ice cream or something like that. What's going to happen is they're going to watch that and they'll be like, oh my gosh. Right. So like, if that happened to me, I would watch that and be like, oh my gosh. They'll be like, babe. Then I go show it to my wife. Right. And we watch it again. And then when Julie gets home, I don't have a kid named Julie, but right. Hypothetically, right. Like a little, like my daughter gets home and we would then show that to the daughter. So now you're watching that video 3 times. Right? You show it to your spouse, then showing it to your kid. And what do you think the chances are of that kid waking up early Sunday morning, dragging their kids to church because they want that bag of candy? Right? It's pretty good. And so, and so that's just like one of those things where like now you're getting extra mileage out of that video and out of that invite. And it's like you got an extra incentive for that kid to come back to church the very following Sunday.
That's good, bro. And we actually have a really cool kids director name. His name is Magic Marty.
That is so legit, bro.
Yeah, because he does magic. I mean, he's a great magician. And so he regularly does stuff for the kids. And he worked in New York City and Brooklyn for 12 years with Bill Wilson. If you ever heard of Bill Wilson in Metro Ministry, Sidewalk Sunday School, he was doing that for 12 years full time. So, I mean, he can take any group of kids and have them in the palm of his hands. He knows how to work the crowd. He pulls out tricks. He'll, do the whole quiet seat, the candy. He's the best, bro. We are so grateful to have him, man. He's even got this box that he cuts somebody into 3 pieces. And he pulls that out on the big Sundays like Easter and we've done our back to school jam. He had me in the box one time, bro, but I'm a little bit too tall, so my head was kind of like a little bit, I had to like bend down a little bit. But his daughter is like the perfect height. And she does it with him all the time now. So, like, his daughter is the one that gets sliced into 3.
Bro, that is awesome.
Yeah, you'll meet him at Flavor Fest, man. He's going to be doing a workshop as well. Yeah.
Dude, that's going to be awesome, man. I'm super looking forward to that.
Yeah, so speaking of ice cream, we had free ice cream this past Sunday. A social media influencer that goes to our church, he goes by Travis Doodles, if you look him up. He's got an amazing story. He went from 0 to 8 million followers in 16 months. And bro,
Bro.
he gives away stuff online, helps people off the streets, people donate. He has a nonprofit. I mean, he's fired. He bought an ice cream truck because he wants to go out into the community and get free ice cream out, pick people up, take them to this place to get free haircuts. He's a barber as well, like homeless people and stuff. So he brought the ice cream truck on Sunday, and everybody had free ice cream out of the truck for Back to Church Sunday. He's going to bring the ice cream truck to Flavor Fest. We're gonna
That's
do
what's
that.
up, bro.
So you'll be able to meet him and hang out with him, hear his story. So, yeah.
Oh, love it, man. Love
Yeah,
it.
man. So, man, what's been one of your things recently that you're kind of most excited about? Because you're always kind of on the cutting edge of marketing and helping churches and ministries leverage, different ways to get people's attention.
Yeah. Great question, man. It's I've been studying a lot of different platforms out there, looking at stuff. I've been really intrigued by short form video right now. Just what YouTube is doing with shorts, what Instagram is doing with reels, what Facebook's doing with reels, right? Obviously, TikTok has just exploded. I think there's a huge opportunity there for churches. Right. And YouTube in particular is interesting because, not too long ago, I'm not sure if this is still happening, but YouTube was growing at twice the rate of Facebook. Right. Right. I mean, they were exploding. Right. And Facebook just recently hit 3 billion users. Right. So that just gives you an idea of how fast YouTube is growing. YouTube's the second largest search engine in the world. It's second only to Google. And Google owns it, right? So now YouTube videos show up in Google searches, and if you look at the next generation, I had the chance to just speak to a bunch of marketing students at ORU last night, to their marketing society, right? So it's 70 or 80 marketing majors and business majors, whatever. And we're just kind of talking about different stuff, AI and video and stuff like that. And every single college kid is spending hours on YouTube all the time, right? It's crazy. I mean, there's I was reading something the other day. It was saying that 95% of Gen Z spends at least an hour a day on Facebook, right? Or excuse me, on YouTube. Sorry. 95% of Gen Z spends at least an hour a day on YouTube, and that's how they find out what's going on now, and then you can get so much reach. Right, so I've had a YouTube channel for the last 2 years, right? I've got about 13,000.
Yeah, you've been killing it, man. You've been putting out a lot of great content.
Man, thanks, bro. I've been trying really hard, right? But it's a labor of love, right? 2 years, I've got a little over 300 videos out there, about 13,000 subscribers. My son, who's 11 years old, takes my cell phone, right, and goes out and just starts recording himself kicking soccer balls into the
and he's beating you. And he's beating you.
Gets 5,000 views of video. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's a 6-second video of and he's using using soccer terms I never heard, right? He's ground shot or top bins or whatever. And shoots a ground shot and top upper right 90. And and it's all these people are responding and stuff like that. He put one of them of him getting baptized this summer at camp or whatever. And it got 6,000 views or something. I mean, it was okay, wait a second. If an 11-year-old with my iPhone can walk into the backyard and get 5,000, 6,000 views, it's open season for people, right? And so I think we're still trying to figure out best practices for how that works. How does short form content connect to your long form content, right? And that kind of stuff. But I just, I think there's a huge opportunity specifically for churches right now on YouTube. And I think using that long form content to connect to some of, using the short form content to connect to some of your long form, right? So especially if you just on how you package some of your content, right? So if specifically if you just go out there and answer some of the questions, I think obviously posting your sermons out there, that kind of stuff, pulling out sermon clips, all that stuff's really important right now. But I also think there's a place for answering questions that people have, right? Think about how many people wonder why do bad things happen to good people, right? So if you went out there and just made a list of questions, right, that people ask, whatever. And a lot of pastors do sermon series like this, right? We have a Q&A series or an asked and answered series or something like that, right? And you just take that and you just do a video, and kind of talk about that and then connect it to a sermon that might talk about, this, even if it's a series you did a while ago. Man, I just think there's a huge opportunity there, right? And like, who's not gonna, like, if all of a sudden you're scrolling in your feed and then it's like, hey, what's up, man? My name's Pastor Chris. Man, have you ever wondered why bad things happen to good people? Man, we're gonna talk about it, right? And it's like, and then you just dive into it. Right. And so, maybe you have a short form version of that. That's like 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, whatever, and then connect it to a sermon where you talk about that.
Yeah.
And people are going to pay attention, right? Like that's
good, man.
So
y'all better take some notes. I'm taking some notes. Our church just started using shorts on YouTube this year. Because I was, hearing and seeing how it was, making such a big impact. I started doing it on mine as well. This channel that this is streaming from, and it started to bring in a lot of new people. But across all those social media platforms, short form content right now is the thing. And if you can find like whatever that little lane is, and you introduced me to those to a couple guys that were doing some unique stuff on Instagram. And so I started doing these prayers on Instagram, and it definitely started resonating with a lot of people. This past week, 2 weeks, I've had a couple that have went viral. I have one that has over 50,000 likes and 17,000 comments. Like the algorithm loves when people comment. And I mean, this reel has been going now for about 9 days. And I'm growing like by 1,000 followers like a day. It's just been crazy. It's hard to keep up with all the requests and all the stuff that's going on in a good way. But Instagram normally grows really slow. I've been on it, and it's my favorite social media platform. And it's just unless you really are hitting the algorithm, but it's generally like, and everybody always says that, artists and influencers, like TikTok, you can explode on that. And I'm not even sure how real some of those numbers are in TikTok. That's what a lot of people have been saying for a while. But Instagram is like, it's real numbers, and but when you catch the algorithm, man, it can get really interesting. So, but what they like is when you're doing content where you're just talking right to the camera. And like your son, it's just from the iPhone. It's not something highly produced. And you taught us that too. Even, that's the way it's kind of been, that raw, organic, not highly produced. You don't need music and B-roll and lower thirds and all that stuff. And so why do you think that a lot of the platforms favor that versus the highly produced stuff? I just want your opinion on that. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I think I laugh because of how many, back when I had an agency, how many clients would argue with me on this, right? Like, at a Mercedes.
That looks terrible. That looks terrible. We got a video team, and we're gonna make it look fancy and professional.
Bro, I literally, like, I had that with local businesses, with tons of churches. And it's funny, the bigger the church, the more they want to, like, hey, no, actually we got a red camera, we're gonna shoot this in our studio. And I'm like, great, nobody will ever watch it, so also just create a version on your iPhone and let's just split test it, right? And the iPhone always just crushed. Like the Mercedes dealership, they gave me like this, literally it was like a Mercedes commercial, and then they'd like, cut it to like, work
That's so
on
crushing
like,
though for people. Like, we have this $50,000 camera, and we have this team, and it's like that does nothing on social media, and this right here is that's the ticket.
That's the ticket, bro. Like, and I've tested. So with all those people, I'll just be like, cool, let's do one your way and let's do one my way, and we'll test it, right? They always come back, they're like, hey, it didn't do anything. I'm like, okay, I know. Now my way. And they're like, dude, it exploded. I'm like, I know. Like, there's a lot of things I'm not good at. I suck at a lot of things, right? But I know how to do this stuff. And so I think the reason, Tommy, just to answer your question, is I think specifically, like, when we're on social media, right? Think about like why people get on social media, right? It's to get connected, right? It's to connect with maybe like friends from high school or college you haven't seen in a while. It's to stay connected with friends you haven't seen, it's stay connected with family, right? So it's like every time I like put something on there about like my kids or something, like we were in Disney last week, right? And so like my wife's up there like posting all these pictures like from Disney, right? And it's like, man, people you haven't talked to in forever going on there like liking and loving and commenting and different stuff, right? Like that's why people are on social. It's for community, it's for connection. And so when people are on there, like we didn't take like a really nice $50,000 camera to Disney World, right? And like shoot videos of our kids on roller coasters. Like everything was like with the iPhone, right? Yeah. Like, we weren't holding it like, horizontal, right? Like landscape mode, like, everything's vertical video and all. And so that's what everybody's putting on Facebook, Instagram, right? TikTok, all that kind of stuff. And so like, that's the way we're used to consuming content. So if you're cruising through like, and all you're seeing is like vertical videos and it's a little bit shaky and it's like selfie video, like, oh, this is crazy. We're about to go on the Hulk coaster at Universal Studios. Let's go. Right. Like, and then all of a sudden, like you see like, poof, like, and it's like this, like perfectly produced, like sideways horizontal video. And it's like Mercedes. The one that, and it's like, what the heck? Like, it's a commercial. And so I think our brains are conditioned to just ignore and skip over marketing and advertising, right? So when something looks like a commercial, right? And if they see that it's produced, that there's like a lower third or like your spinning logo or there's background music, people just immediately just scroll right past it. So it's like, oh, that's an ad, right? Like, and you just keep going. Yeah. As opposed to if it looks like everything else on the platform, right now, it begins to, like you just think, oh wait, what is this? And most people like the way that we like coach our churches, like how to do like ads and stuff, right? Like if you're doing like a vertical video and you're just inviting people to church, people don't even know it's an ad, right? Like it just because it looks like everything else on there, and it's all organic, and that's part of it. Like that's good. One of the things I like to say is like, man, I personally believe that like in this day and age, for a church or a pastor to go out there and not learn how to speak the language of social media, right? I think it's similar to a missionary moving to a country and refusing to learn the language, right? So like it's like this is the language that our culture speaks right now, and so figuring out, and the difference is like in the same way that like different countries speak different languages, different platforms speak differently, right? So you're going to talk one way on YouTube, you're going to talk a different way on TikTok, different way on Facebook, different way on Instagram. And so, at the end of the day, like the produced stuff just doesn't work there. Like that's where like a lot of this organic vertical video and that kind of stuff because it's the language that everybody else is speaking on that platform. So when you try to come in speaking a different way, right, with a highly produced video, it looks like an ad and nobody sees it. Everybody ignores it. They just keep scrolling. So you just have to, learn the language. And so, that's kind of, for lack of a better term, like just janky videos and pictures taken vertically. Like it's exactly what you would do with your kids and put on social media. You need to do the same thing for your church, your local business, right? That kind of stuff.
So where do you think, Chris, that in your opinion what do you think's next? Where's social media going?
Man, I think for right now in the immediate future, everything's going to keep going towards video, right? It already has, but I think everything's going to keep going towards video. I think short form video is really, really interesting. I think AI has disrupted everything and will only continue to disrupt everything, and a lot of it, I think as leaders, like we're still figuring out like how exactly to use AI. Right. But like already right now, like you could go out there and use AI for like your sermon series artwork. Right. Which is like crazy for like professional graphic designers and different stuff like that. Right. Like there's some AI video editing stuff out there that you can do. Like that
send me that link.
Dude, I'm telling you, like it's crazy, right? Like there's like a Chat GPT, for instance. Like I went to Chat GPT yesterday, right? And it was like I knew what I wanted to speak on when I was talking to these kids, but I was like, okay, like here's what I want to go through. And I was like, man, and I remember there was a specific book, right? It's called Start With Why by Simon Sinek, right? And I was like, man, I really wanted to share some of the principles out of that book. And I'm like sitting down, like remembering, I'm like, what were some of the things in there that really impactful? I've got like some notes on it, stuff. And I was like, oh, I just went to Chat GPT and I was like, what are the main principles?
Gives you like some main, oh yeah, that one. Yup. Yeah. I don't want to talk about that one. That one right there. Yup. I remember that. Yep.
Dude, that's it. Saved me so much time. I read the book. I knew the principles. I just needed to be reminded. So I just copy pasted the ones I wanted, right? Threw them into Google Doc, right? Threw them in the slide deck. And I was like, oh yeah, did the same thing with like Good to Great from Jim Collins and a couple things, whatever. Then added a bunch of my kind of like little Abbo-isms, right? And next thing you know, like,
Abbo-isms.
I've got a whole list that I keep.
That's a
on my
hashtag.
Phone,
hashtag
but
Abbo-isms.
Abbo-isms. But it was just like that, like a presentation that probably would have taken me a couple hours took me about 20 or 30 minutes because I just used AI to help me remember some of that stuff. Right. And different stuff. Like, oh, cool. So I think, like, I don't know if you've ever done this, bro. You could go to AI, like specifically Chat GPT, right? Like, especially if you're using Chat GPT 4 and you go in there and just say, write a sermon outline about faith, based on Mark 11:23. And dude, it will write a killer sermon series outline or sermon outline, excuse me. And then and you can literally turn it into a series. Like, okay, now write one for faith in your marriage. Now write one for faith in parenting. Now write one for faith in your relationships or in your home or leadership, or whatever it is. And it'll just, right? Just in 4 seconds, just create all these different things. And then you can take that, right? And so it's probably about 70 to 80% done at that point. And you're like, oh yeah, I like that scripture, but I'm going to replace this scripture with this one. And then I'll plug in my own stories, boom, 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 boom. Right. Yeah. And it's okay, man, let's do, but you've got a jumping off point as opposed to going okay, man, we got a series coming up. It's on faith. I'm going to use Mark 11:23 as my scripture. Where do I want to start? Right. It's dude,
yeah. You just always have to fact check everything with it still. Because sometimes they are just pulling stuff from the internet, and sometimes it might be stuff that oh, wait a minute, I'm not, and I actually only tried it once, and I did it. We were doing a series this summer called Summer Fun at the Movies, and we were doing a message on the movie Otto, A Man Called Otto. Yeah. And so I was just playing around with them, write a Christian sermon based on the movie A Man Called Otto, right? And so it said on there Otto, did this, blah blah blah, and some of it was true, but then it was Otto came to a saving faith and a relationship with Jesus, and I'm no, he didn't. I saw the movie. I don't know where that came from, but so you gotta read it all and make sure that there's definitely some parts in there that it's just pulling stuff off the internet. And here's a funny story about ChatGPT and AI. So my daughter, she's a senior in high school. Obviously, all the kids are hearing about it now, and they're writing papers and all kinds of things with it because my daughter has to write a lot of essays as a senior. And she said they have a program that they run all of our papers through now, and it's able to identify what was written by AI. And I said, and you know what that is? And she was like, yeah, it's AI. AI tells on the AI. So, and then a friend that's a book publisher of mine said that that there's similar things that are going to be coming out for books and that they're going to be able to they'll reject books. They'll reject a bunch. Google is going to be rejecting a lot of those things. They're going to be able to indicate and tell if that was stuff that was directly pulled off of the AI or if it was original thought. So they gotta, how are we gonna know on some things it's tricky. Everything's tricky. They can't. How about the deep fake videos? You said everything's going to video. There was a video that I saw that came out on X, on Twitter, X formerly known as Twitter. It was of Ron DeSantis, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, who's running for president, for the nomination or whatever, and it was him saying he was stepping down and that he was wrong and he listened to the wrong people for entering the race, and he was putting his support behind Trump now. And it was just, but it looked, if you're just glancing at it, especially on a phone, it looked very real. Now, if you zoom in, there was some things they said that you could see with his lips that weren't 100. But man, when you're just looking at it casually, and it sounded just like his voice, and it was wow, that's scary, man, of where we're going. They could, there could be videos, all kinds of stuff that would, look what Chris Abbott said. He was cursing somebody out.
Oh, yeah.
And it's that wasn't me, I swear. And it's they're going to have to come out with a software to run all that stuff through to see if, was that really Chris, or is that,
and then I think video? They'll figure out how to regulate some of that stuff and everything. There's always course corrections and pivots along the way.
There's going to be a lot of that in the next couple of years.
That's exactly right. But, and I think the biggest difference with AI is using it as a supplemental tool as opposed to having it do the work for you. Right. So it's one thing to go in there and say if you're writing a paper on the Civil War, to say hey, write me a 5-page essay on the Civil War, and it just pumps it out. Right. It's another thing to say, give me some ideas for an essay on the Civil War. Right. Yeah. And then it pumps out 10 different ideas. You're like, oh, actually, I really like this one. And then it's okay, give me a potential outline for what that would look like. Gives you an outline, and then you start changing things, and then you go and then you write the paragraphs and stuff. But you've got that. That's where I think and I think we're all
It
still
can be a
learning
great
how.
tool. It can be a great
Yeah,
tool.
yeah,
If it's used
yeah,
properly and not abused, and, like, hey, I'm just going to write my whole essay from that or my whole sermon from that.
yep.
So, but it can be something that can be absolutely leveraged, and people that don't learn to leverage it are going to be left behind because you're going
I
to be
agree,
able to
man.
work so much faster. And so I heard about a illustrator, not an illustrator, a copywriter, and he had all these clients. And this was a few months ago. I read this article that he lost like all of his main clients because they all started using AI, and they all admitted, hey, we know it's not quite as good as you, but we got to save money right now. And so we just have to make this decision, this change, versus if he would have pivoted and said, hey, I'm going to start using AI to write copyright. I'm lowering my prices much lower now, and I'm just going to have way more clients because my prices are going to be so low, but I'm going to be able to work so fast because AI is doing the majority of it, but I'm just tweaking a little bit of it to make it better, to get it to that level where, it needs to be. Like, then he still could have been working probably. So it's just like, we got to, in a lot of industries, you're just going to have to pivot a little bit and leverage the AI, or you're going to just get left behind.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man.
So, man, we're going to wrap it up, bro, but let us know, just like give us a little sneak peek of what you're going to be talking about at Flavor Fest in your workshop, man. Just a couple of things are going to hit.
I'm super excited, man. I'm going to kind of share specifically, like, obviously we're going to talk about kind of the future of social media, the future, talk a little bit about AI and that kind of stuff, right? Kind of where things are going. But specifically what I want to do is, like, I've studied with and had the opportunity to work with a lot of the fastest growing churches in the nation, right? So what I'm going to do is just kind of like figured out all like here are the lessons I've learned from working with some of the fastest growing churches in the nation, and ways that you can use those tactics and strategies at your church, right? And so for example, like, man, there was a piece of software that I used at my church, and when I added it to our website and combined it with a social media strategy, we ended up having 447 new visitors in the first 4 months. Right. Woo. And it just exploded. Right. Wow. So I'm going to talk about that and talk about, hey, right. So, like, here's the software that we use. Here's how you can use it. Here's the social media strategy that I used. Right. Here's how to kind of copy paste some of those things that are working at churches all over the world, all over the country specifically, and use them at your church, regardless of the size of your church, regardless of the size of your budget. Right. And here's how you can kind of adapt it to your culture and DNA. All right. And kind of really breathe your vision into it, but still use it to, reach more people and make heaven crowded.
Man, that's good, bro. I can't wait, man. It's going to be some good stuff. So, Chris, tell everybody how people can find you, man, and tap in with you.
So best way is on my YouTube channel. You can just look it up, Chris Abbott, ABBOTT. Got a bunch of videos out there on church growth, social media, Facebook ads, prayer ads, all kinds of stuff. So YouTube's always the best place to find me.
All right, cool, man. Well, hey, bro, can you close us out real quick in prayer, man? Say a word of prayer for all the leaders watching and tapping in.
Yeah, let's do it. Man, God, I thank you for Pastor Tommy. I thank you for every single pastor, church leader, business owner, every single leader that's watching this video right now. God, I pray that you would do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond all that they could ask or imagine. God, I thank you that everywhere the sole of their foot treads, they're on land that you've given them. God, that no weapon formed against them shall prosper, but every single thing they put their hand to will. God, I pray that you would bring in godly resources and finances and people and talent into their churches and organizations, God, that you would help them to reach more people. You would help them to be innovative, God. You would help them to be able to change the world, right, and empty out hell and populate heaven. God, we thank you. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Come on, show some love for Chris Abbott. Yeah, man, we're excited to have you at Flavor Fest. Again, everybody, tap in at flavorfest.org. See all the details. All the workshops are listed, the speakers, the concert, artists at night. There's going to be so much amazing stuff happening that weekend. We are doing a mural festival. Some of the top mural artists in the world are going to be painting like a 250-foot wall on the side of the building. And, man, there's just going to be so many unique elements that are going to be happening. The Rapzilla 16-bar challenge is coming up. The Beat Battle by Track Stars are going to be hosting that. The breakdancing battle. There's going to be a fashion show. There's going to be so many unique elements that weekend, and plus the big outreach when we go out in the community, and we just love our city. So flavorfest.org has all the details, November 2nd through the 4th. I'm going to be there. My guy, Chris Abbott, is going to be there. You need to be there with your team, so tap in. Until next time, we'll see you. Thanks for tuning into the Flavor Fest Urban Leadership Podcast. Stay connected with us on social media at UrbanD813 and at FlavorFest. We'll talk to you guys next week. Peace and God bless.